Hello everyone, welcome to Jack of All Art, and thanks for tuning in. This is the start of a new series of mine centered around doll customization. Doll customization is basically when you take any sort of doll you can get at a thrift shop or toy store or anything like that, and you can erase everything that's already on it and spruce it up to your liking. You can paint on a new face, you can give them new hair, you can design them new clothes, you can even take apart and reattach limbs if you really wanted to. None of which I've actually done before, but I want to. I got really into this because of the YouTuber Delightful. She popped up on my YouTube recommended and I ended up binging her entire channel in like less than a week. She really makes a point to walk you through everything she's doing and she lists all of her materials. She made it really easy for me to go, hey, I want to do that and I think I know how to. So here's me trying. So here's the plan. I have an original character that I've made a lot of artwork for, and I'd like to make her into a doll. This is my concept art. She's a superhero character I've named Mayhem. She's got a cute firefighter outfit, fluffy purple pigtails, and giant bat wings. I know I'm not going to get a flawless doll on the first try, so I'm gonna break it up a little. For my first attempt, I'm only going to focus on the bare bones. I plan to do her face, hair, and airbrush the body of the doll I have to match this skin tone. Hopefully all of this will go super well and then I'll nail the second doll attempt and have no issues. This first video will focus on the prepping process for the doll and the airbrushing. So let's get started. This is Frost, the doll I'll be using for my first attempt. I chose this because she has an unnatural skin tone so I could try my hand at airbrushing, and I like how possible she looks. I haven't actually seen other doll customs from the DC Superhero Girls collection. I hope there's not like a legal thing I don't know about. Anyway, I mostly see Ever After High and Monster High series dolls, and they seem great too, but this doll was just cheap on Amazon. Here I have a Monster High Claudine doll that I've already decapitated and wiped clean. Poor Claudine here will be used for my second attempt at creating Mayhem. The main difference I see between them is that the DC doll is a little wider and the face is more elongated. I like it. I'm wondering which kind of doll I'll use for my final attempt if my second attempt isn't perfect. Anyway, let's open up Frost. Here she is. I also took off her clothes already so we could check out her posability. Seems great. She has full range of motion in her shoulder, elbow, and wrist. She's also got some movement in her torso with that chest section. I'm excited to get into things. We're going to start by cutting off all of her hair and removing her face. Everything I say about this process sounds like a torture technique. For this, we're going to take small, sharp scissors and cut off her hair as close to the scalp as we can get. If the hair is good quality and long enough, you can save it for another project. Fabulous. That Bride of Frankenstein look. Just a little more work to cut the hair at the scalp. This is so when we pull out the glue holding it in place on the inside of her skull, we don't have as much work to do getting out these plugs. Plugs are what we call these strands of hair rooted in her scalp. Should I get a buzzer for this? Seems like it would be easier. Here she is now, getting progressively more horrifying. You can see she's got a very thick part, so when you style her hair, there's no patchy bald spots there. I've seen other doll designers do a more even and clean looking job on this step, but I think it'll be fine. Next, we're going to decapitate her. Don't look at me like that. That's really staticky. Oh, it feels nasty. Don't worry, Frost, no doll-sized guillotine. To remove the head, we're going to soak her skull in near boiling hot water to soften the vinyl enough to safely pop it off the head with no damage. Luckily, the tap water in my apartment reaches boiling temperatures instantly because my plumbing is borked. If you need to boil some water, you can have some nice tea while you wait for the head to soften. It really only takes about 30 seconds for it to get soft enough. Make sure you have a towel nearby so when she's out, you can grab her head without burning yourself. Oh, she's got little holes in her feet. I wonder if that was to keep her hollow or something. Whatever. Alright, let's do this. She's also leaking boiling hot water. Just be careful, everyone. I did it! Here's the plastic bit inside the doll's head that keeps them on. That was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. Ooh. Boop! Now that her head is off, I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver to scrape the glue and plugs out of the inside of her head. You've just kind of got to feel around. I'm keeping the hot water nearby in case the head gets a little stiff so I can re-soften it. The hot water also helps soften the glue inside a bit. Nice! You can see the section of plugs I've scraped out in this little bald spot. I'll try to get that thick part as well. I can't find my needle nose pliers anywhere, which I would have used to reach into the doll head and pull out the glue and the roots in there. I tried with some tweezers, but they're too little. Honestly, there was almost no glue in there, and shaking the head like a maraca is actually working on getting the little scraps out of there. That actually worked, which was super surprising. She's bald and empty. Oh, and here's the mess that technique made. I gotta lay down a plastic sheet or something. So the next thing we're going to do is wipe off her face. I'm going to use pure acetone for this, which is like super strong nail polish remover. Regular nail polish is fine, and it's what I use to clean up Claudine, but it takes a lot more elbow grease. Oh my god, that totally melts her face right off. Oh man, that is very satisfying to watch. Ooh. There's a gentle glitter finish on her face, which I don't really want there, but I think the airbrushing will cover it right up. This stuff smells like gasoline. She also has this paint on her scalp I'm going to take off. This is there so the hair looks less sparse between the plugs. Wow, I am still impressed by acetone versus factory paint. I'll speed through the rest of this, but I'm using a Q-tip to get onto all the little crevices of her face and scoop that last bit of paint out. After this, I'll wash her in the sink with warm, soapy water so there's not any acetone left on the surface. Here she is, all fresh and clean. Now we can airbrush her. I've never actually operated any airbrush before, but I'm going to mix some of the colors into the mug and dump it into the airbrush bucket thing, and it'll work out fine. Probably. Maybe I'll watch a YouTube video. Remember to wear a mask of some kind. Don't get paint on your lungs. Here's my airbrush and compressor. It's super small and quiet, which is good for apartment living. I immediately lost the nozzle cap. It's fine. That's cleaner. It's fine. So I glued some wood together to get a horrifying doll hangman so I can kind of spray all around and get into all the little crevices. Get back inside. What are you doing? Get... I've also already done a base layer of white to prime the doll, which I didn't film because I tried and got some paint on my phone. It's a little splotchy, but honestly not a bad first coat. That's paint, I promise. I just couldn't open the red. By mixing white, red, and yellow, you can get a pinkish skin tone, it looks like. It does the color on this canvas real fast. It's super light, but I think it's good. I'm too scared to tip the mug just into the airbrush thing, so I'm painstakingly using this little dropper that came with the kit. I've got some protection on my phone now, so I'm going to film the airbrushing a bit. I'm just going to test it out on the canvas before spraying the doll. Well, never mind. The battery died instantly on my airbrush because I forgot to charge it, so I'll clean everything while I wait for a bit. After the first quick layer of the actual skin tone, I can see some immediate issues with the airbrushing. There's some blobs and areas where the paint dried unevenly. Maybe I can fix that later? Maybe not. It's honestly kind of fine. I finished 2 coats of the flesh tone and let it dry overnight. You know what? It looks pretty dang good on the head. On the body, I was running out of paint and didn't want to try and color match later because I'm pretty bad at that. So I mostly just sprayed her neck, thighs, and forearms because those are the parts that would be showing in my original design. Outside of that, there's some color separation issues, blotchiness, and kind of some overall meh. But her thighs, hands, and neck look pretty good, and that's what matters right now. Really impressed by how smooth this can look. Not as bad as it could have been. I'm going to spray the head with Mr. Super Clear Flat for a matte finish and a strong seal so we can draw and paint on it later. You absolutely must wear a good filtration mask for this and make sure you spray outside. As for the body, I'll seal the parts I want to protect by painting on Duraclear matte varnish. The face is looking pretty great after all is said and dried, but a big paint blob formed and chipped off and got weirdly oily. I'm going to gently scrape the rest of it off with my X-Acto knife and reseal it to keep things kind of smooth. Might try color matching after all, just to patch that bit up with some acrylics. On the body, there's also some places it chipped right away that I want to try and patch. The paint was just not sticking well to the body in these places. Okay, nice, not bad. Pretty good match for the tone. How did I even do that? The body wasn't really as lucky. When I started working on it, even more chipped off and a whole thigh started to peel off. How hard do you think it would be to remove all of this paint and start over?
Well, let's find out. Time to peel.
Alright, enough of that. I cannot believe that worked, but I am so happy. Look at this terrifying crucified doll. This is actually the makeshift contraption I put my phone on to get a bird's eye view of my workspace. I literally got all of the paint off her, except her arms where I think I did things correctly and properly lacquered it, but whatever. I got a little off this arm, but there wasn't any way to remove more without harsh sanding. Her dainty little hands also had globs of paint and lacquer on them that made them look all misshapen, so I took those off with an X-Acto knife. I ordered a replacement nozzle for the part I had lost on my airbrush, and this time I will actually do some research and try this again. Instead of using the airbrush paint that's already been thinned, I'm going to mix my own using basic acrylics and then thin it with golden airbrush medium. I learned from some Googling that the easiest way to make a realistic skin tone is to mix equal parts red, white, yellow, and blue, and then lighten that color with more white and yellow and red for warmth until it looks right. You can see I already made some of the color I want, and now I'm going to add more paint into the same ratio so I don't run out in the process. I also did some research and found a great website for all my airbrush questions, Airbrush Guru. I'll put a link in the description. When all of the acrylics are mixed up, we'll add the thinner. According to Airbrush Guru, since I'll be using a 0.3 airbrush needle, I'll need 3 times more thinner than paint to get the right consistency. I got a replacement part for the nozzle bed I lost, and it helps disperse the paint, which is pretty necessary. It's hard to see in this light, but I've sprayed on a very, very light layer. It's a little textured, and that's supposed to help the next layer or two stick to the plastic better. I'll wait 10 minutes between each layer to let the paint dry.
I feel like the natural hostile environment that is Arizona is maybe not gonna be great for airbrushing outside. It's about 75 degrees Fahrenheit out. It's very, very sunny, and my airbrush actually has so much black on it that it's absorbing so much heat, like paint is drying in the mechanisms. I don't really know what to do about that. So I think I've got 2 really solid layers down, and it's sticking to the plastic well. If I hand paint from here in my nice air-conditioned apartment, I think that'll work. Let's find out.
Started painting it by hand, and it's looking pretty stellar. I'm using the thinned out paint still so things don't get too chunky, and it minimizes the look of brush strokes. I still have no solid technique for this. Glob on some paint and spread it out real thin. I think this second layer is going to be perfect. To keep the mixed paint wet while I wait for coats to dry, I've got a wet paper towel over the mug and sealed it up with saran wrap. I'm going to use the Duraclear matte varnish again, this time everywhere instead of just the parts I care about. I care about all of it now. We did it! Here's our finally finished body. She has a smooth, consistent layer of paint that isn't chipping or flaking even when the metal stand rubs against it. The paint scrapes off a bit at the joints where they need to move, but if that's the worst of it, I'm very happy. I think for round 2, I'm not going to airbrush the skin at all. I'm just honestly going to try to avoid it as much as possible until I've got more experience under my belt. It was a lot of fun, but so tedious with all the problems I had.
That's it for this video, everyone. We've got a base down so we can start drawing and painting on a new face, giving her hair, and I'm going to try to make a tiny coat. I'll cover all of that in the next video, so stay tuned for more.